Kevin Mckenzie Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Tailor-Made Consulting, LLC. For the last 17 years, Kevin has been an integral part of municipal and faith-based outreach with youth in the Nashville area, both in the State Department of Children's Services and as a family involvement and community engagement leader. As a licensed clergyman, Kevin currently leads restorative practice implementation for the Southeast Quadrant in Metro Nashville Public Schools. Kevin specializes in change management, municipal and business partner engagement, motivational speaking, mentorship, and parental involvement. He was the 2018 Power Moves Ovation, and he is also the co-chair for Davidson County Community Advisory Board and recently became a board member for the Transitional Life Center in Nashville. Kevin is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Incorporated, and is honored to be the father to his two sons, Kevin Jr. and Christian Mckenzie. Kevin, welcome to These Three Things. Kevin Mckenzie Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Tailor-Made Consulting, LLC. For the last 17 years, Kevin has been an integral part of municipal and faith-based. Kevin Mckenzie Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Tailor-Made Consulting, LLC. For the last 17 years, Kevin has been an integral part of municipal and faith-based outreach with youth in the Nashville area, both in the State Department of Children's Services and as a family involvement and community engagement leader. As a licensed clergyman, Kevin currently leads restorative practice implementation for the Southeast Quadrant in Metro Nashville Public Schools. Kevin specializes in change management, municipal and business partner engagement, motivational speaking, mentorship, and parental involvement. He was the 2018 Power Moves Award winner for Best in Education, and he is also the co-chair for Davidson County Community Advisory Board and recently became a board member for the Transitional Life Center in Nashville. Kevin is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Incorporated, and is honored to be the father to his two sons, Kevin Jr. and Christian Mckenzie. Kevin, welcome to These Three Things. Kevin Mckenzie Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Kevin Mckenzie Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Tailor-Made Consulting, LLC. For the last 17 years, Kevin Mckenzie Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Kevin Mckenzie Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Tailor-Made Consulting, LLC. For the last 17 years, Kevin has been an integral part of municipal and faith-based outreach with youth in the Nashville area, both in the State Department of Children's Services and as a family involvement and community engagement leader. As a licensed clergyman, Kevin currently leads restorative practice implementation for the Southeast Quadrant. Kevin Mckenzie, Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Tailor Made Consulting, LLC. For the last 17 years, Kevin has been an integral part of municipal and faith-based outreach with youth in the Nashville area, both in the State Department of Children's Services and as a family involvement and community engagement leader. As a licensed clergyman, Kevin currently leads restorative practice implementation for the Southeast Quadrant in Metro Nashville Public Schools. Kevin specializes in change management, municipal and business partner engagement, motivational speaking, mentorship, and parental involvement.
There's a place for us we can depend. There are hearts can trust that we'll find unity. You and I and many more. These three things, that's how we'll be restored. So we can rise up, move. We've got the victory. Burdens loose. These three things. Higher, higher we go. Don't stop, we're too close. Free your mind, let's go. These three things.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Kevin Mckenzie, Sr. is a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is the co-founder of Tailor Made Consulting, LLC. For the last 17 years, Kevin has been an integral part of municipal and faith-based outreach with youth in the Nashville area, both in the State Department of Children's Services and as a family involvement and community engagement leader. As a licensed clergyman, Kevin currently leads restorative practice implementation for the Southeast Quadrant in Metro Nashville Public Schools. Kevin specializes in change management, municipal and business partner engagement, motivational speaking, mentorship, and parental involvement. He was the 2018 Power Moves Award winner for Best in Education, and he is also the co-chair for Davidson County Community Advisory Board and recently became a board member for the Transitional Life Center in Nashville. Kevin is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated and is honored to be the father to his two sons, Kevin Jr. and Christian Mckenzie. Kevin, welcome to These Three Things.
Thank you for having me.
Sperry Jones, a native of Detroit, Michigan, relocated to Nashville in the late 80s to attend the HBCU, Tennessee State University, which has been a family tradition for generations. With positions in executive and middle management, he has over 27 years of healthcare financial management experience. In 2002, he founded Quantum Healthcare Solutions and was the only African-American-owned healthcare receivables management firm in the country doing business with hospitals. Sperry enjoys raising his 4 sons, traveling, and enjoying extended family. With a bachelor's degree in mathematics, he's encouraged by the work he does as a math tutor for students in the Middle Tennessee area. Sperry, welcome to These Three Things. But first, before we get started, I just want to ask you guys, like, brothers, how y'all doing? Because 2020 has been stressful. You know, it's been stressful for you guys. And I know that y'all have, seen a lot this year. And not that, obviously we have Breonna Taylor, but, compared to our brothers, like women, we have not experienced any of the frustrations or trauma that you guys have currently been experiencing. So how are y'all doing?
We're doing pretty good. We're just trying to make it, trying to maintain, trying to hold everything down we possibly can.
Yeah. How does what you guys are seeing in the media and with the deaths of all these men at the hands of police brutality, like how is that affecting you as you function daily? Is it at all?
Well, for me, it's concerning because I have 4 sons myself.
Mm-hmm.
I call them my 4 kings.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned about them every day. And the difficulty in talking about the situation with them is a little confusing for them because, telling them the right things to do, they see now that doesn't always work.
Right.
And so that's the part. So you just pray about it and, ask God to cover them and send them on their way.
What's the age group of your sons?
I have a 22-year-old, 21-year-old, 17-year-old, and a 13-year-old.
And Sperry, like it doesn't matter the age of your sons. You still worry about him. I have a 21-year-old and I still worry about him.
Yeah.
He's grown technically, but I still worry about him.
I mean, I've been pulled over in the while my sons were in the car, and they have to see how I react and relate to them. So you're right. The concern is all over, and it's not necessarily about when they're behind the wheel. It's when any of us are behind the wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it could be any one of us.
That's right.
Brother Fonz?
Yeah, I'm conflicted really, these days, just about things in general. Pandemic, brothers getting killed. I mean, it even happened again this week. Jonathan Price. I hadn't seen a lot of news stories about that, but, so I'm conflicted in many ways just about what's going on in our environment. But overall, I'm good. You'd never know it because, my message is to encourage people. It's just who I am. But it's challenging for me to find the best ways to encourage people when you always get different blows that come.
Right.
So I tap into the Lord and my relationship with him, and that helps me. But it's a conflicting time right now in many ways.
And when you have to go into the workplace, I mean, do you guys work in environments where you're around other races, Caucasians?
Yes, I would say I work in education. So in the school system, especially the school I work with, we have at least 23 different languages being spoken in our school. So I run across many different families and many different employees that we work with. So we come across a lot of different people, and it is conflicting, and it's confusing to a lot of our parents and a lot of our students.
So, as black men, are you guys like your white colleagues and friends, people that you consider friends? Do they reach out to you, or do they act like it's not happening at all, or do you get a little bit of both?
I would say a little bit of both. It's interesting that you mentioned that. It was just maybe a week ago where a couple people in our office, including my direct line manager, was talking about what was going on in the world. They were talking political issues, and they asked me what was my opinion, and they knew that was a difficult area to walk into with me. They didn't know what my reaction would be, but I was able to share with them that, you know, with the presidency, there's a limited term. So after whatever presidency happens, we'll move on. We'll have another president. The world is not going to end underneath one president. So I told him that wasn't my worry. My biggest worry was what was going on with things that could affect my family. And that was my concern for my boys. And they had never heard my perspective, because I'm the only African American that works with my company.
Wow.
So they hadn't heard my experience or what my feelings were. And it changed the whole tone about them talking about discussions with Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter. It kind of changed their focus, because now they have who they consider one of their own.
Yeah.
Where this is affected. And so it was a good conversation to have, but of course I didn't initiate it. I needed that right moment to be able to say my piece.
Yeah. Anybody else want to speak on that?
Yeah, I can. To your question about are people reaching out?
Yes.
Before George Floyd was killed, I was in this space where I was like, man, for the last 15 years of my career, I traveled almost extensively. So 3-4 days a week, I'm on the road somewhere, speaking, training, holding strategy sessions, doing something, because that's what I have done in my career. And when COVID hit and I couldn't travel, I was like, man, I got to figure out how to reinvent myself, because my family got to eat, right? And I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do, how I was going to shift some things with my consulting business, how I was going to try to revamp some things with my property management company, because we weren't getting staged, just all kinds of things going on. Then George Floyd got killed. And I would say every day for about a 15-day period, a white professional, mostly senior level executives, CEOs, senior VPs, et cetera, reached out to me and said, man, I just want to talk to somebody, and I trust that you're going to be real with me.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of conversations. Some of them were emotionally draining, because I'm trying to help people see what I live, right?
Right.
And they were all in shock when I told them, man, you're more surprised and more outraged about George Floyd getting killed and you seeing that than I am. I'm outraged, I'm upset, but like, you're in shock about it. I'm not in shock about it, because my first reaction was like, oh man, they got another one. Just like 2 days ago when I saw the guy in Texas, I'm like, man, they got another one. And so I'm not immune to it, but I've seen it so much.
Right.
And nobody should have to live like that, because they don't.
Right.
But I also will say that has helped me, because now I'm like, okay, people keep reaching out to me, talking to me about this. It has increased the diversity part of my consulting business, right?
Which is great.
So that's been a blessing for me, as I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And then this just opened up. But I will say, too, is it helped me also to just kind of understand why some white people are where they are. I give you what you said, triggered it for me, Sperry. You work at a company. You say you're the only black person at your company, right? So if there are people who work for your company that don't have to interact with you,
right?
They could go literally all day long at work, They can go stop and get some gas or go to the grocery store or something on the way home, still never interact with somebody black. They could go to the restaurant with the family out to dinner. And if their server or somebody is not black, they still don't have to interact with somebody black. And in the United States, unless you live right in the middle of a major urban center, you could live that life as a white person for days, weeks, even months without interacting with somebody black unless you're intentional about it. So they never heard that from you because they never intentionally sought that. So what that says to me is they live in a little bubble.
Right.
And because they live in that bubble, some of the things that are so egregious to us and that we live every day, they're oblivious to them.
Right.
And so I came to that epiphany about 10 years ago, and I stopped being mad at white people because they didn't understand our plight. I didn't excuse them from it, but I stopped being mad about it and said, I'm going to seek out the opportunities to help educate them so their sensitivity level will grow. So some of my friends were like, man, I'm hating that they're calling me, asking me this stuff.
Yeah.
And my thing was, no, I'm glad they're calling me because I'm using it as an opportunity.
Absolutely. Right. And I think, just to jump in on that, to your point, I think that we can't be weary now because for years they were never asking us or even reaching out and extending to create or have the conversation. So now that they are choosing to engage and want to have the conversation, this is not the time for us to all of a sudden be overwhelmed with having to answer questions.
Right.
I wanted to ask you to something that you said, and I'm coming back to you, Kevin, in just a second. I wanted to ask you something when you said that you now look for opportunities to educate and to engage. What are some of the things that you do that can, for our brothers, our kings who are listening, that you do to help initiate and engage conversations on race relations and just what you share?
Yeah, so I do it formally through training and education, but like informally with conversations, if something comes up where normally I may have said, or a few years ago I may have said, oh man, that's messed up that he said that, they're insensitive. I may have kept that to myself and just rolled on, where now I may ask a question to say, why do you think that? Or what's your perspective on that?
Yeah.
And now that opens up some dialogue, because what I always was sensitive to was I didn't want to let anybody misunderstand who I am, because first and foremost, I'm a black man and I can't hide that. I don't want to hide it. Right. So I'm very sensitive to that. But I might let some things slide. Well, now I say, instead of letting them slide, I use them as a teachable opportunity, and I do it by asking a question about their perspective. And then I say, well, let me tell you my perspective on that. And some people are willing to engage in that conversation, some aren't. And then I just make the decision how far I let it go, because I'm not going to debate with them about it, but I do want them to understand the impact of what they said and how that impacts other people around them.
Right. That's good. That's good. And Kevin, have your friends, colleagues reached out?
Well, I will say I was a part of a group where it was an organization where it was about 12 of us, and we was all from different races, but I ended up being the only black man in this group. And so we go through dialogue, and we go through a lot of different questions, and it's spiritually based. And it was probably about 4 black women. Then we had Asian, Italian. We had a lot of different people from all walks of life. But I was the only black man that could speak for a black man's perspective. And so our white counterparts were asking the question about the things that were going on with George Floyd and a lot of things that we as black people deal with. And it was something that came up, what the man said. He made a comment. He said, well, it's tough when we're sitting around the table and it's nothing but negativity being taught about black people in your household until you go to college.
Wow. And
so when you go to college, all you know is when you come home for Christmas, it's just N-word, all these different types of things that's being said about black people. And so how can you actually love somebody that you've been taught to hate in your own home? And so it opened my eyes to understand why they don't really know, and why we can't blame them for their own parents' dysfunction. In another situation where another guy I told him the difference between him losing his job, you have a family business that you can fall back on. But as a black man, I lose
Right.
everything. I don't have anything to fall back on as far as my heritage and my family money.
Right.
You know, to that point you made, man, about what they learned growing up in the household. So if they live in this bubble, right, then and they don't engage with us, then what they learn is from TV, where there's studies out there, that academic studies that show how when somebody black commits a crime, you see this mugshot. When somebody white commits a crime, you might see them in a suit and tie, right? So they see these images that are negative of us. And then some of those images look just like the athletes they see on TV, right? And so they group those athletes in that same negative image that they have. That's why you hear commentators say to LeBron James, who has done so much for the communities.
Right.
That's why you hear them say, shut up and dribble. But if you listen to this guy and you get a sense for his passion and what he's done, he's a very intelligent guy.
Right.
And you can look at what he has amassed off the basketball court and also know it's a very intelligent guy. But their perspective is exactly what you're talking about, what they learned. And because they don't engage, they get from media, and that just adds to it. And so that's why I've decided I got to be intentional about just exposing them. Because what happens is they'll look at the three of us. We're professionals. They engage with us at work, and they feel like we are the exception. When I'm like, I know more black men like me who are doing the kinds of things that I'm doing than I do the people that I see these mugshots on TV.
True.
I know some of both, but I know a whole lot more of y'all than I do of them.
Right.
So we're not the exception. You just need to get to know us.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Can I give you an example of what happened when you remember the Waffle House shooting?
Yes.
Okay, so when they put him out there as a shooter, they did not say the things that they would say about if the black person was the shooter. It wasn't
Right.
a negative connotation that was on that particular white man, where he was a man of interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, black man, he's a killer, murderer, you know, all these negative
Suspect.
things. Suspect, all those things. And they let him go home. That's just a whole nother sermon
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Cultural conditioning, man.
It is.
Yeah.
We
Well,
get
you
it
know-
all the time. We get it all the time.
You
And
know-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sperry.
Oh, I was about to say that we really don't have a voice that speaks for us, that shares what our real concerns are. You know,
That's true.
yeah, I mean, we've heard about Black Lives Matter, but even as a black person, I'm not sure what message Black Lives Matter is trying to convey. You know, sometimes it has to be concise, intentional, and you have to repeat the same thing, and I just don't hear that. You know, at one time, and this was before I recognized, but Dr. Martin Luther King was that voice. And what he said often, and he said consistently, and everybody had a buy-in to it. And so no one really knows what our concerns are. And there's so much social media stimulus out there that's
So why do you
driving
think
the
that is?
narrative.
Yeah,
I
but
could tell you why.
But why do you think that's? Why do we not have any men stepping up and speaking to what our brothers, our kings, are going through?
I think you have to look at the history of everybody that stands up, they shut up.
They kill it, or they get
They
killed.
assassinate. And so I think it's a fear factor
Absolutely.
of being
I
that
agree
you
with that.
know the truth, but you don't want to speak on it because you don't want to die for what you believe in.
right.
And I mean, I'm not knocking anybody that doesn't do that, but I know for myself, if you realize your life is not your life and that it's the Lord's, I mean, you can walk in it. I mean, but there's a lot of men that are strong enough to do that. It's just doing it is the hard part.
And that was the intention, I believe, you know, to assassinate our men who were speaking up and trying to move the needle for African Americans in this country, was to create that fear so that you don't stand up anymore.
Right.
You know, and I'm a big fan of Until Freedom with Tamika D. Mallory. And I support them. As a matter of fact, all of the T-shirts that I sell on These Three Things podcast, I donate a percentage to Until Freedom, just because, you know, I have followed Tamika for a while, and she talks about the fact that she knows any day they might take her out, but she's already decided that it's okay, because moving the needle for us is more important to her than worrying about dying.
Right.
You know, and I respect that.
Right.
I respect that. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not on the front line ready to go die. So I donate my money that she can have what she needs to go out here and fight for us, you know?
So I agree. Assassination of a black man is real, right? And it can happen not just physically killing you, but it can kill somebody's career and all that. And that helps hold people back.
Yes.
But I think one of the things is we got to have a new strategy. And what I've learned since George Floyd died is the most effective strategy I can have is if I find me a white guy and we go together, because he can reach some people that I can't reach, right? Or she can reach some people that I can't reach. And together, I give validity to what he's talking about because I live it. And he can talk to this guy that will dismiss me as the angry black man, because I ain't mad. I'm really not.
Right.
But that's what they would dismiss me as soon as I start talking in some audiences.
You are listening to These Three Things podcast and the Kings of Nashville on marriage, divorce, and dating with Alfonzo, Kevin, and Sperry. We'll be right back. For almost a century, Scarrett Bennett Center's historic Gothic campus has been a choice location for dream weddings in Nashville. Consistently rated one of Music City's best places to get married by The Knot, Wedding Wire, and Toast of Nashville, Scarrett Bennett Center offers 3 timeless venues for your wedding: a 20-person elopement chapel, a 300-person wedding chapel, and a breathtaking garden. From rehearsal to reception, Scarrett Bennett Center is ready to help you create the intimate, historic wedding of your dreams. Visit our website at scarrettbennett.org/weddings for more information. So let's start off. Okay, we're talking, and the purpose for us being here today is we're talking about our kings, and we have one gentleman who is married, Alfonzo Alexander. Sperry, you're divorced, correct?
Yes, that's
Sperry
correct.
is divorced, not remarried.
Divorce.
Kevin is divorced, not
remarried.
remarried. Okay, this is great because on the Queens of Atlanta, everybody had been divorced. So, and Fonz, this is your second marriage.
Yes.
Okay, I hope you didn't mind me. We're here to talk about it. Okay,
Yeah,
and we'll get to
it's
it.
all good.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. And the first question that I asked the Queens was, what do we women want? And so I'd like for the 2 single gentlemen to talk about what you want in a woman right now. Like, what matters to you in a woman? What are you looking for if you were to start looking? What are you looking for? And then from Fonz, our married king, I want to know what you're looking for now that you've been married. And how long have you been married now, Fonz?
19 years.
19 years. So at 19 years, what are you looking for? So we're going to start with you, Kevin, first. And then, tell me what you're looking for in a woman.
Well, in a woman, I would say I'm looking for a woman who thinks as iron sharpens iron. Looking for a woman who pretty much is pretty much open to spontaneity, has a pretty well-rounded mindset.
Yeah.
Who actually who loves kids, because I have 2 sons. One's 24, one's 12.
Okay.
And just understand if they were not to have any more kids, how would they be okay?
Yeah.
And just someone who's willing to travel, someone who loves to hang out, and you can dress up and dress down, cook together. Someone who's not a homebody, but like I said, somebody that pushes me and I can push them, and it's just always complimenting each other. It's like a game to me where we do those thoughtful gifts and those things that you think outside the box, and you be like, oh, I thought about that. It's just those different type of love languages that are very important that you try to tune in on, and that makes the marriage or the relationship grow.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I still have the idea that I would like to share my time with my best friend. So the woman I'm looking for, I want to be open enough to become my best friend and share the times that I have. I'm a dad, so and all my boys play sports, so it would be helpful if they liked sports. Or even if they didn't like them, just enough to be able to share the time, because a lot of my time is spent with my boys and sports. So I'm a co-parenter, and we do a really good job of co-parenting. So it would be helpful if someone was able to relate in that particular dynamic.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, there's not a whole lot that I have as far as expectations
Okay.
for a woman. But, just someone who is her own person, confident in who she is and can be honest about who she is and we make things work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the married perspective.
Yeah, so I will have to say that I already have what I want.
Okay.
So I'm good.
Okay, that's great, but I mean,
You want me to define that though
well,
now, right?
no, I want you to elaborate. 19 years into the game, what do you want now? Because, as we're in relationships, our needs change, they evolve. If you already, physically and aesthetically have what you like, what is it that you need now with 19 years invested in this thing?
So I'll tell you what I do like and what's just so good, I think, in a marriage. And I'm coming from my perspective, right?
Yes.
So where we are. So, you can't define this, but it's a vibe, right? It's a vibe where, like, when people are around you guys, they just know, they're like, man, these folks got a vibe. They are good together. And that can be seen by other people because they see how you engage with each other.
Yes.
And they know that it's cool. And that vibe kind of spills over to where when we're alone, we can either be doing something that engages us intensely and it's cool, whether that's good or bad, like whether we're having a lot of fun or we're having a passionate debate.
Yeah.
And it's cool because we know at the end of the day, we ain't going nowhere, right?
Right.
Because we got that vibe.
Right.
Or we can be together and be alone, and I'm way over here in this room. She's way over there in this room. Hey, you good over there? Yeah, I'm good. And we got a separation, and it's cool. Nobody's feeling like I'm not loved or I don't care because I'm not there, because we know we're solid there. And so there's a level of peace that comes with that. And so for me, that vibe brings on peace. It brings on even an example, but it brings on an opportunity for us to be really together when we want to and separate, but we still are
And
good.
can be
so we
independent and everything's okay.
can have our own lives.
Absolutely. So let me ask you something to that, because I think there's something to add or to a question in that, because both of y'all don't arrive at those destinations simultaneously. Like, for example, you could be completely content with being on the other side of the house and, doing your thing and on your laptop working or whatever it is that you do. And a woman could be like, he's on the other side of the house. So how many years in the marriage do you think that both of you had arrived at that place where our vibe is good? Like, if he's over there and I'm over here, that's okay. When we get ready to get back together, do whatever we're going to do, we're good with that. How long do you think it took before y'all arrived there?
That's a good question, because I don't think we ever really fully arrived there. That goes in cycles.
Okay.
Right? So sometimes I have to work, or she has to work for that vibe to really be there. And then sometimes it's just natural.
Okay.
So there's a level of sensitivity that you have to have with your spouse to understand when she might need more from you than what you've been given the last couple of weeks. And sometimes she can say something to make you understand that, but most of the time she's going to expect you to read her mind. And I don't know if you guys are mind readers, but I know I'm not, right?
Have not mastered that
I,
yet.
I'm not good at it. So we got to build in ways to check things and pay attention. And, you know, I'm just a keep it real kind of husband, right? I feel like I'm probably a C at best at that. But fortunately, because we got 19 years in it, she will bring to my attention, hey, bro, you need to pay attention to this.
I need some A's these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I need you
need some A
to
efforts.
switch it up a little bit here, bro, because I need you right now. You
yeah.
know.
Now, the both of you brought up a good point, because that does take a little work to be able to keep that vibe through the cycles, right?
Yes.
I don't know if I can speak for Kevin, but I know for me, when dating at my age, people aren't willing to go and put the work in to even get to another level. It's real easy after divorce or after a relationship or at a certain age that you don't have to put as much work in. It's real easy for a lot of people to say, you know what, I just can't do that. I can't put the time and effort into that.
Yeah.
So I run into that. So in a marriage, you know, it's best to work on those things.
Right.
You know, there's a commitment there.
Right.
I see that people are not as committed now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We're coming down that road on commitment. Okay. Next question. Looks. Do they matter?
Looks do matter. I would say looks matter. I would say it matters to the person who enjoys what you look like.
Right.
I mean, it's not that you.
But to you, we're speaking directly from you. Looks matter to you.
I like to have somebody that I can look at. Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So weave, no makeup on. You good with all of that? Like, because I've had some men to say that, and I had a girlfriend of mine that specifically wanted me to ask y'all this question. Shout out to my girl Sandra, that she's heard her male friends say that by the time a woman takes her lashes, weave, and makeup off, she's not even the same person anymore. Like, I don't even want. Who are you? So is that okay with y'all? Like, you know, that if a woman is glammed up to that degree that when she takes all of that off, it's like, I don't know.
To be honest with you, for me, I don't think having someone who has to do all that. I don't have to.
You don't
really
need all
date,
that.
I don't want to date anybody that has to do all that.
Yeah.
Because really, on the inside will come out and shine. You know, so if you have a little blush, a little lipstick, and I mean, you know, you jazzy. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, your vibe will bring it out. So yeah, all that weave and stuff.
So if you saw a sister super made up with a nice, you know, Brazilian body wave on and, you know, dressed beautifully, maybe a little more makeup than you like, would you not step to her or would you still step to her?
I would not step to her.
Just because of that?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, because that's not what I see. That's the first person that I see.
That's not what you like.
Right. But if we have a conversation and then the conversation gets good.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, I mean, I'm not going to try to change her. That's just what she wants to do. But why are you doing all that?
Right. Because she likes it.
It could be, or she's hiding something.
Okay.
So she may be doing that more for her than him, because she likes it.
Right.
I get it.
Right. Sperry?
Well, for me,
we're going to keep Fonz the last since he's the married guy. You know, and technically his appearance is already, you know, we know.
Right. Well, appearance for me.
Does it matter?
Well, appearance does attract my attention initially. Mm-hmm. But getting to know someone after that is more important for me. Mm-hmm. A person for me can look beautiful just by how they carry themselves. But I do agree with Kevin that a little too much glam may fall off of my radar.
Okay, so let me ask y'all, because we're all, you know, adults of a certain age. We're all over 40 in this room.
Right.
Do you think that has evolved as we have gotten older? Would that chick been a girl that you guys would have looked at in your 20s or 30s that was all glammed up?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think I would have looked. And anybody that knows me,
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a whole bunch of women after you, but it ain't the woman for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And my selection or my preference has for the most part been the same.
Been consistent.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
consistent. Yeah.
Okay, so Alfonso, to our married kings and for our queens who are listening, who are single and are looking, that want to be married. I have, a lot of queen friends who want to be married again. They want to be remarried. So 19 years into the game, like, what are you expecting your wife's appearance to look like? I mean, maybe it's different than from dating because, y'all around each other, all the pomp and circumstance, we've already arrived and gone past that. So what is your perspective now?
Yeah, so I share the opinion of these guys, that glam and all that stuff, that's not really what I'm looking for, what I was looking for when I was dating, because I'm really wanting more of the authenticity.
Yeah.
I want you to be stylish. Style is huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to be stylish, neat, clean, but all that other stuff is not
Too
necessary.
much.
So that doesn't change when you get married, right?
Right.
When you get married, you want the same thing from your spouse. You want her to, like, I love my wife's style, and I like for her style to continue. But she and I laugh and joke a lot of times because, like, sometimes she likes to get glammed up. And she knows that that's more for her than for me.
Right.
But if she's sharp, I'm gonna tell girl, you sharp,
and you should.
and that's what I like. You know what I
peace
mean?
in the house.
Yeah. And if she's sharp and I don't tell her that, she gonna let me know.
Absolutely.
Man, everybody else was telling me you sharp, but I was sharp, but you didn't.
Yeah.
So.
But you do understand that glam look is necessary for her sometimes because she just needs to know I can get like that if I want to.
Hey, and she does.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm good with it.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. So. But I'm good either way.
So I have 3 yeses. Looks matter. Appearance matters.
Yes.
Okay, money. Let's talk about money. Does money matter for our 2 single kings here? Both divorced, to get married a second time around. Her credit. Credit is it important? Is it not important?
Well, for me, it is important, but having a good credit score immediately is not, because I know how to work on credit. So it's really a mindset behind it.
Okay, so
we all get behind sometimes.
And let me jump in on that. How soon are y'all in the dating process? Are we talking about money and credit? Are we talking early, or are we talking once I know I'm interested? Or I'm not even gonna know if I'm interested till I know money wise what's going on with her.
Well, the interest in everything comes over time. So as far as credit report, that doesn't come up immediately. There are things that you have to work on. You have to both decide whether you want to, it's something that you want to pursue at a higher level. So I would say that takes a little while.
Yeah. Takes a little while, but money does matter to you.
Yes.
It does. And credit, okay.
Yeah, I would say money matters in a sense about, the credit, and that only comes later because we not talking about who makes what. I don't think that's a conversation that always need to come up in just dating.
Right.
Because, you're doing a checklist, and that checklist you're going to lose interest. Like you said last time, as you get over 40, you just kind of, I'm not putting all that work into that, or they bring their old dysfunctions into that relationship that they had before they left their last relationship. So money can matter, but I'm not trying to have that help complex all the time because, I don't mind helping anyone.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that, they lean, and it's kind of tough because it's draining.
Yeah.
And that is not me. I don't feel like keep doing that for people. And then you lose it in a relationship. Then you're like, oh man, it's like a child to me.
Yeah.
Right.
So the queens, I will tell you guys, because, when I asked this question to the queens, money absolutely mattered. They want to talk about, but let me just tell y'all, you have to go, back and look at these queens. They heavy with money though. Like they bringing in the bacon. So they wanted a king who, could hold his own. He didn't have to make what they were making, but they wanted a king who could hold his own, and that was a conversation that they actually wanted to have. They wanted to have that early because they wanted to, talk about it. Let's talk about it, because I don't want to, fall in love with you, brother, and I find out your credit score is a 420. Which was a conversation that we all laughed about, because I was like, can a credit score be 420?
Right.
But
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well,
So
that's an interesting point, because that is a testament to how things are. Men are looked upon as the priest, the prophet, and the provider.
yeah,
And so if you notice our conversations when we talked about what is expected from women, we were like, it's important, but it's not as important. But you mentioned that your queen said it's very important. So that gives you a testament about, number one, where our thought process is as men, that, okay, that's not necessary for you, but I'm going to have mine in order.
yeah.
And I wouldn't mind sharing my financial position early on if that mattered to someone that I was truly interested in.
I know I'm not dating, but I just got to say, what's critical is the attitudes about money.
Right.
So if you got one person in a relationship whose attitude is very conservative and is like, we're building this for our children or whatever, and another person's attitude is that I'm spending because I can't take it with me, then you got a conflict right there.
And
You
so-
do.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that was huge for the women, because what that says is we still all have this cultural conditioning that the men have to provide. So a woman, that's on her checklist. Can he provide for me? And a man is not,
Or at least hold his own.
or hold his own, right? I ain't gonna lose money because I'm with him.
Exactly.
Right. But a man won't even look at it from that perspective, because we have in our mind that part of what I am going to do is make sure she's good. So I might lose some because of her, you know what I mean? Or
Yes.
through this relationship. And so it's very interesting, but that's just, people coming from different perspectives.
Education. Does education matter? Does she need to have a college degree? Does she need to have multiple degrees? Does she need to have a doctorate? Is a high school diploma okay?
I would say,
Now listen, what I want from y'all is I want y'all straight up. That's this, because you can only speak for yourself.
Right.
Don't try to speak for all brothers and kings in here today. For you, does that matter?
I would say a high school diploma probably would matter right at this point. I would just say only because unless you're going to educate yourself, because there's a lot of people that don't have the college degrees that are smart.
Correct.
Because they are educated. But they're, I just think that they would either have more education, not necessarily paper, but they would try to learn themselves or educate themselves a lot more.
Okay. Talk to me.
I prefer college graduate because I'm a
Okay.
college graduate.
Yeah.
But if someone had a high school education, that's fine for me too.
Yeah. And then you liked her and y'all had a good vibe.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
I feel you.
If she can stimulate me intellectually, I'm good. And that's I mean, my wife stimulates me intellectually. I'm not really sure what her highest level of academic achievement was. So, but if you graduated from high school and you can stimulate a guy intellectually, then I think he might much later, hey, where'd you go to school?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you've intrigued him. So
Yeah.
that he knows now that you got some intellectual horsepower.
Okay. So would it be fair to say higher education is a rather, but if you met a woman who stimulated you intellectually and was well-traveled and cultured and sought knowledge in other ways, but just not in an academic situation, that's not a deal breaker for you. That woman would be an option.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Good. Size and weight. Size and weight. Does it matter? Can she be a thick shake? Does it matter? And I'm going to start with Fonz on this because you're married. And I'm just going to say, like, because you've been married 19 years in the game, and I've seen your wife. She's a beautiful sister. She's put together. But let's just say she put on 40 pounds. You okay with that?
That's an interesting question because we put on pounds too. So
Understood.
I can't be hypocritical in that regard, right?
That's the nice answer. But what
No,
I want
I'm not
from
finished.
you, okay.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
Ideally, I would like for us both to be as healthy as possible. That's more important to me than the actual size is the health.
Yes.
But as we get into situations and we grow and we recognize some things, then if we feel like we need to make some changes, we need to do it. And I just say that simply because in our 19 years, there have been times when both of us have come to a point to where we said, whoa, wait a minute. I'm getting too big. I need to do something about it. And we did.
Okay.
And the spouse acknowledged and supported that.
Yes.
There's also been times in our marriage where we were throwing hints to each other and that wasn't received well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for what I learned in that whole situation is a person has to get there themselves. And as a spouse, like if she pushing me because I like to go eat some birthday cake, then that might be a problem.
Yeah.
Because I might eat more cake. But if I'm pushing her, then that's going to be a problem. So we have to help and support each other, and that person has to get there first.
Yeah.
But ideally, we both want to be healthy.
Yeah. Hey, Queens and Kings, I think that's a great place to stop for this episode, part 1, with the Kings of Nashville on marriage, divorce, and dating with Alfonzo, Kevin, and Sperry. We'll see you next week for part 2. And remember, you can listen to These Three Things on iHeartRadio and Pandora. You can also follow on Instagram at These Three Things Podcast, YouTube at These Three Things Podcast, and Facebook at These Three Things P. If you want to find more information about this episode and my guest, go to www.these3-things.com. Go to our podcast page and click on this episode.